You know that feeling you get when you put on a pair of pants that you thought you wouldn't be able to fit into, but they fit? Yeah, I know. Hi there, and welcome to the Free Range Diva. Pardon my silliness, but that is what happened to me when I went off sugar for 2 weeks. So initially when I started this video, that's what it was going to be about, how to easily wean yourself off sugar. And then I realized what time of year it was, and I could hear you guys. Wait, she wants us to do what? Cheryl wants us to go off sugar right before the holidays? Oh, no. So, okay. Instead, we're going to talk about unrefined natural sugars that will give you a little bit of nutrition, minerals, vitamins, along with the sweet taste, and that will help you actually calm down some of those sugar cravings, allowing you to use less. It's been said that when you switch from highly refined sugars to more natural, unrefined sugar, that your sugar cravings tend to go away. So I'm going to be discussing some alternate sweeteners that are natural and unrefined. And stick around for the end because I'm going to share with you a favorite dessert recipe that I make every year at this time that serves 4 and only has 2 tablespoons of sugar in it. By the way, everyone, thank you so much for all your enthusiasm that you greeted my video last week about my Amazon shopping fashion haul. And I wanted you to know that next week I'm going to do an Amazon lifestyle, either favorites or haul or something along those ideas. But I'll be sharing a bunch of lifestyle items in the video next week. So stay tuned for that. And then finally, before we start the video, I have to give you the medical disclaimer. I am not a medical professional, as many of you already knew. And if you are on a low sugar diet, are diabetic or pre-diabetic, this video is not to be used in place of your medical advice that you're getting from your doctor. This discussion is not in any way designed to take the place of your personal dietary needs, nor am I suggesting that you absolutely need to add sugar to your diet, because you don't. All right, and sugar is not a health food, by the way. There's no such thing as a healthy sugar, but there are sugars that will allow you to get a little bit of nutrition while you're getting that sweet taste. So let's start with the baseline white, the kind you get in the major grocery store sugars. Not only are these sugars highly refined, they are 100% sucrose. So there is no molasses left in the sugar. On the glycemic scale, they come in around 80. And when you see sugar at the market that says it's granulated, as opposed to pure cane sugar, just granulated sugar is going to be made from GMO sugar beets. So one step up from that in the cane variety of sugar is Turbinado sugar. This is raw cane sugar, and this is somewhat less refined than straight up white sugar. This has about 2% of the molasses left in it, and this is also known, you can see it sold as Demerara sugar. And molasses is the part of the cane where your nutrition lies. It's where the minerals and the vitamins of the plant are located. So you want to try and hold on to as much of that as you possibly can. Next up, and I'll put in a picture because I have used this product, but I don't have it on hand right now. Wholesome is a brand that makes what they call organic cane sugar, where the cane juice is evaporated and then dehydrated, giving it a slightly blonde color. They also make something called sucanat, and that's an anagram for sugar cane raw, and that is also a product name that the FDA recognizes as sugar that is as minimally processed as it can possibly be. Wholesome says that when they make their sucanat, The stalk is crushed to extract the juice, then heated down to a syrup, which is left to dry. This is very brown in color, and it comes in on the glycemic scale somewhere around 45, 47, in that range. I just plugged in my mic, so the sound should be a lot better. Sorry about that. Next up is going to be maple syrup and maple sugar. So maple syrup is the sap that's drawn directly from the maple tree. When you buy a bottle of this, it should only have one ingredient listed, and that's maple syrup. Grade A, which is what this is the premier or the premium brand of syrup because of its color and its clarity, and this is what is absolutely delicious when you put on pancakes. You can also find grade B, which is darker and cloudier and better in baked goods. Maple sugar, which is one of my favorites, is dehydrated maple syrup. So again, there should only be one ingredient in here. This is really good in baked goods because it adds that maple flavor, but it also makes your texture softer and fluffier. And this one I get from Savory Spice. This can be really expensive, and that's probably the best place that I've found to get really quality and get it at a relatively reasonable price. This is one of my favorite companies, brands for spices, as well as for this particular product. Raw honey is next. This is what's known as a live food because when it's raw, unprocessed, it retains the beneficial bacteria and enzymes that really helps you to break this product down. Because of its positive impact on your digestion, this is a really, really beneficial food. And this is not to be confused. There's something on the market called honey granules, which is a combination of like honey, dehydrated honey, and cane juice, which is not the same thing obviously does not have the same benefits as what you would get from using raw honey. Next up is coconut palm sugar, which I don't have right now, but I have used. This is drawn from the palm tree, and it's not to be confused with something called palm sugar, which also comes from a palm tree, but it's a different palm tree than the coconut palm. Actually, the sap that we're talking about comes from the flower bud of this particular palm tree. The sap from the palm is mixed with water and boiled down to a syrup. Then it's left to dry out, where it dries into chunks, and these chunks are then pulverized, giving you a very dark brown, soft product. We're getting low on the glycemic scale with coconut sugar, coming in at about 30. And then finally, the cream of the crop, the queen of the queen, what I think arguably is the best of these sweeteners, raw sweeteners, these unrefined sweeteners, dates and date sugar. This product used to be really, really expensive and hard to come by, but over the last few years it's come down in price. And this particular brand, Date Lady, is one of the best on the market because basically there's nothing in here but dates that have been dried and pulverized. But depending on the region and the process, sometimes the flavor can really vary a lot. But this brand gets kudos for being consistently sweet, no bitter aftertaste, no nothing basically, and being a really good product. You can use this just like sugar in recipes, and it will give you some. This one, which has a very mild flavor. Some of them can have a very stronger date flavor, but this one's very mild. And this comes in on the glycemic scale at 20, as do regular dates. If you want to just add dates, like I will sometimes, if I'm feeling festive, I will throw dates into my smoothie, for example, for a little, or if I'm making some frozen ice cream like dessert in my food processor or in the blender, then I'll throw in a date. So as far as taste, each of these has So as far as taste, each of these has their own flavor profile. Coconut sugar can be very caramelly, have a caramel flavor, whereas date sugar can have deeper, more richer caramel notes, maybe even a little smokiness thrown in there as well. Honey can be either light, a light floral, or more complex, more spicy, depending on the region of the flowers, or if it's a single unifloral or a multifloral blend. And a word about molasses before I take you down to my kitchen. I don't really use molasses as a sweetener because I feel like it has more of a sort of a smoky, umami, savory, barbecue-ish type of flavor to it. It's a very strong flavor. And I like to use it in things like chili, for example, to give it a, savory note. So I encourage you to give some of these sugars a try in everything from beverages to baked goods to main dishes. Oh, and as far as baked goods go, I usually start by cutting the sugar that's recommended in half when I'm using one of these sweeteners, and then making up the difference with something like applesauce, for example, or some other fruit puree that's quite sweet. All right, so now I'm going to take you down to my kitchen and I'm going to make for you my sweet potato souffle. Yeah, you're going to love it. I promise you're going to love it. When you prepare your yams, I recommend that you roast them in the oven rather than boiling or microwaving them, because it concentrates the juices and it concentrates the sugar, so you end up with a much more flavorful, like you can see here, the sticky, that is the sugar that was in the yam, and you can see by the color that even more of it is in the flesh. These guys were roasted for about an hour at 400 degrees Fahrenheit. And if you're someone who doesn't like sweet potato or yams, it might just be because you've never had it cooked the way that it should be, roasted, so you get the full flavor. Maybe. So the first thing you're going to want to do is preheat your oven to 375, butter a 1.5 quart round baking dish, and then grab a food processor, blender, or a mixer, and in it you're going to put what I have here, which is, bring it in close, we've got 1 cup of mashed sweet potato, half a cup of warm milk, 3 tablespoons of butter melted, 1 to 2 tablespoons of flour, half a teaspoon of vanilla extract, 1 teaspoon of lemon zest, 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg, and 1/4 teaspoon of cinnamon. The only thing I have not put in here yet is the sugar, and we're going to do that now. We're using this maple sugar today. And as I said earlier, I'm going to put 2 tablespoons of this maple sugar into the blender. That's 1 and 2. And that is all the added sweetener that we're going to get in this recipe. The last thing that I need to do is break these eggs. I need to put the yolks into the blender and separate out the whites to whip up for when we combine everything. So let's do that now. All right, the eggs are in, so now I'm going to mix this up. So I have the egg white mixture here and the sweet potato mixture here. And because the egg whites were room temperature, they whipped up pretty quickly. And in the South, we refer to yams as sweet potatoes. And so although I was born and raised here in Southern California, my family is originally from East Texas. So technically, yes, this is yams, but I'm calling them sweet potato because I do it out of habit. Mixing in half the egg whites, just folding that in so that they don't deflate. You can see how it's lightening up in color. And it's also growing in volume. And these egg whites are going to help give it that lift. This is going to go into a 375-degree oven for about 40 to 50 minutes. We're leaving nothing behind. So this is my California riff on sweet potato pie, sweet potato souffle. And there it is. It's going to collapse a little bit as it cools. You can serve this with ice cream, or the way I like it, with a spritz of lemon, maybe a little drizzle of maple syrup. The texture is like a cloud. The flavor is euphoric yet fleeting as the souffle melts away into your mouth, leaving you wanting more and more and more. Thanks for watching. I'll see you soon.